You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All righty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined, as always, by your co-hosts, Kevin and Alex. Gentlemen, how we doing?
I'm bitter. I'm bitter that the College Football Playoff Committee ranked my Bulldogs number 2.
Oh, that came out, huh?
Yeah. And it's not so much, I get maybe the strength of schedule hasn't been there. It's not their fault that they were asked to take Oklahoma off their schedule and had to replace them with Ball State. But nevertheless, they had to comply with what was being asked of them from the SEC. It's because they have gone the last 2.5 seasons with one loss. They have won 25 straight regular season games, and I get it's a season-to-season league, but you don't deserve to be number 1 until someone dethrones number 1. That never happened with Alabama, and it shouldn't have happened with Georgia.
I guess I mean, I totally understand the argument for having Ohio State, but look, I don't think Ohio State's the best team in the country. Realistically, of these top 4, and you can include 5, I guess. I think you could make a case that any one of them should be number 1. The cool thing about it is, yeah, it's a ranking. It's not how it's going to end up, right? This is gonna move up and down, left and right, sideways and back, as we continue to march through the final couple of weeks of the regular season here. But yeah, I can see. But look at this. If nothing else, it's some bulletin board material for Kirby and the boys, right?
Yeah. Missouri better watch out. Like, they're the best team in the country now because I mean, you can.
Yeah, Missouri might be deer in the headlights here this week.
I tell you what, that's a big game, right? Missouri was the test last year, right? Missouri had a 10-point lead over Georgia going into the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden, Kenny McIntosh and Stetson Bennett, along with a little help from Brock Bowers, realized, oh yeah, we're better than you guys, and they pulled it out. So
I think the Bowers injury plays into the fact that Georgia's not as good as they were without him.
If you didn't see the performance that you got against Florida, like if this would have been a week prior and Bowers had just got down and it was Georgia's bye week, I think you can kind of justify that, right? Like, we don't know exactly what this team looks like. They're
what are they going to be without
tight end? Yeah, what the questions, everything else. But all those got answered. I mean, in the first quarter and a half against Florida, between Oscar Delp and Ra Thomas and Dominic Lovick and Ladd McConkey came back. Like, they have tons of offensive weapons now, and they actually ran the football really, really well against Florida. So I get it. Like, they had a lot of slow starts here the first 5 weeks of the season, and they have trailed in every single SEC game that they've played this year. Now, they've also deferred in every single one of those games, but I'm not going to get into that. They got to stop them too, right? You got to play defense. So while I understand it, I think that they're still everybody still has to play by a different set of rules than Nick Saban does.
Oh, 100%. You'll never hear me take the argument against that. It's an interesting top 25. Shout out to Air Force cracking the top 25. Your usual SEC flair.
But yeah, I mean, overall,
Oklahoma,
it is what it is.
Derek, how do you feel about that?
I'm not getting baited into this conversation. Sorry. No. I'm
After
Kevin
the
summarized
that the Sooners put up last week to see them at 9, I think is a little interesting.
Yeah.
They're still a good football team. They went on the road to a Jayhawks team so Kansas
Also
had already
ranked.
lost to Texas, right? They'd been ranked and not ranked throughout the season. So with already losing to Texas, this was their Super Bowl.
Yep.
This was their shot for momentum and all the things and kind of the legacy of the Jayhawks players, all the things that happen from time to time. And it just Oklahoma just got caught a little bit, right?
Yeah.
They came out in the first half. They looked good going into halftime and then stubbed their toe a bit in the third quarter and got themselves in a back and forth battle. And
I mean, when you get
on
down
the road in conference game,
nothing to a team like that, and then the turnover battle was a deal there as well. Again, I'm not getting baited into this conversation, but
yes, you are.
they,
Conference games are a bitch.
yes,
Right?
they are.
They just are.
Yeah.
And while we have different thoughts and opinions on what conference might be better than another conference and everything else, the schools that play each other, there are still natural rivalries, right? And every time that Oklahoma or Texas play a Big 12 game this year, the coaches are feeding down the players' throats. They thought that they were better than you and going to greener pastures because you guys couldn't compete with them and go hang one on. Like, they are not that they don't get everybody's best shot, because Oklahoma especially has been the cream of the crop there for the last damn near 15 years. You have flares of Texas, right? You have flares of Texas. You had TCU, Kansas State every once in a while, but it has been Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Who has really been the cream of that conference. And so that's the pregame hype going in there for these teams. Like, they're leaving. They think they're going to greener pastures. This is your chance. Send them out with an ass kicking. And it's a good rah-rah as the underdog. It just is. And momentum at home in a conference game, regardless of who's playing, is a powerful thing. It's a very powerful thing, way more in college than it is in the NFL. Emotion plays into the outcomes of these games. And it was a trap, right? I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'd rather see Oklahoma in there than Michigan or Ohio State. Like, I get it. They have arguably better programs from top to bottom, but
it's also that's a built-in, that'll get settled, right?
Honestly, the thing I'm happiest about is the fact that USC's fallen apart at the seams. Like, I couldn't be happier that USC is just losing all these games. Yeah. Like, oh, goodbye. Like, and that's, again, because I hold resentment towards Caleb Williams and the fact that he held college before the season, in the week 2 of the college football season, held staying in college over the NFL, like, bargaining power. And we talked about at the beginning of the show, and Alex, you gave examples of where players have done similar things before, and I don't care. So seeing them struggle, because regardless of whether it's the defense's fault or not, those losses go next to his name.
Yeah.
So to hang on real quick before we move off that topic, right? You were talking about Oklahoma getting the best shot because they've kind of ruled that conference. The Big 12 has been around for 27 years. Oklahoma has 17 Big 12 championships. They have more championships than everybody else that's played in the conference combined have. So they are, they put together some good runs here. This is another year that they could get another Big 12 title. I fully believe that we'll see both Texas and Oklahoma face off yet again in the Big 12 title game. And quite frankly, if you've got a 1-loss Oklahoma team, a 1-loss Texas team, both of which are top 10 teams going into the stretch there, like that a win by either one of those teams could easily sway the committee and propel them back into the playoff there. So
this could be the year, and probably should be, with the way that Washington and Oregon have been playing, that there is only one team from each conference in, right? No, I don't think any conference deserves 2. You will see Ohio State and Michigan settled on the field. So that should, right, wrong, or indifferent, that should absolutely eliminate one of them. We've seen Washington and Oregon. Again, right, wrong, or indifferent. And if there's a rematch of Oklahoma and Texas, we will have seen it twice. And there's a big difference between the 4th game of the season, Derek. Is that what it was, or the 5th? 4th, I think.
No, they here, let's look that up here real quick. But it was 5th or 6th game.
Yeah. So between there and game 11, right? There's a big difference in that month and a half. that those teams play. So you kind of go off the recent one and expect a good back and forth game again. And then if Georgia does not win the SEC has not done enough this year to get a team in. They just haven't. Now,
I would agree with that.
You couldn't ever hold Georgia out if they run the table.
No.
You just couldn't, with their body of work and the last 3 years all put together. And
how do you deny an unbeaten
the chance
team?
and the chance of a three-peat. Yeah. And God, I'm knocking on wood because I have not used that word all season long, but just the opportunity is such a storyline. How could you turn that down?
It's an entertainment business.
So this year in particular, with the way that these games have played out and the conferences have kind of aligned themselves, this is the year to have one from each conference. And you still have the ACC with Florida State. If they run the table, they have just as much right as everybody else. So then now you're pounding the table that this is absolutely why we go to a 12 team, because now all these teams get in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
like
now
you
12,
this is the year that you want the 12 team. Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, Oregon, Texas, Oklahoma, Florida State, Georgia, and
Washington, Oregon.
Yeah. And arguably whoever else, maybe if Alabama finishes running the table, if Alabama were to run the table and beat Georgia, they would have well earned their spot in that. We'll see what they do this week against LSU, right? This is a big game for them. So anyway, I digress. I've wasted the first 10 minutes of the show getting us into college football, and I'm sorry, but I love college football too. So
it is very fun. I will segue us to the NFL. Very interesting trade deadline today. There were a few moves that legitimately caught me by surprise. I was busy at work, so I wasn't able to follow everything that was happening as it was happening. But I'm going to be honest with you. When I finally got a chance to look up at a TV, and I saw that the Commanders moved off of Chase Young and he went to the Niners. What?
For a third rounder.
How good of a general manager is John Lynch? Think about all the moves that he has made, right, to get impactful players on that team. And he hasn't really, aside from the Trey Lance debacle, right, which I think we can all agree they gave up too much and got nothing in return for that, which maybe they could have, maybe they would, whatever. But aside from that, John Lynch is pulling all the right strings and still putting this team in a win now mode, and just bolstering their chances.
Part of it with Young has been his health, right?
Right. And he's a rental, right?
Good. Well, he's
free agent.
He's his third year. He's got another one after this.
Oh, I thought he's a free agent after this year.
No, he's a 2020 draft pick. So they get him for all of next year too. And then they decide whether they want to use his 5th-year option. So they could have him for 2 or 2.5, essentially, before they have to make a decision, because he was the 3rd pick in the 2020 draft.
Second pick in the 2020.
Or second, sorry. But his rookie year had a very strong season. Last year he was hurt. This year he came into the year hurt and out of shape, right? They were a little disgruntled about that. It took him a while to get going. But I think he fits right in with that Niners team. I think he absolutely feeds off of what Bosa can do and how the linebackers play off the defensive line and vice versa with that defensive scheme there. I think you're going to see maybe not a resurgence. It's a little early in his career to call it a resurgence, but you're going to see a revitalized Chase Young, right? Going
sometimes
back to a
change
contender and everything else. Yeah, just change the scenery. And then the Niners also traded Sweat to the Bears.
No.
For a second. They got more for Sweat than they did for Young.
They had to give up, yeah.
So that part was interesting. Obviously, was it Williams heading to Seattle? Was a good move for Seattle. They needed help there on the defensive line, so that helped. No court. Well, that's not true.
Wow, Dobbs.
Dobbs, right? Dobbs going.
So I was really interested. Yeah, I was really interested what the Vikings were going to do. Did you guys all see? I don't know any validity to it. I saw it somewhere. I I don't even know if it was a real account that I saw it on, but that there was serious talks about Jameis going to Minnesota. And like that kind of made sense to me. I think Minnesota is in a spot where they can still make the playoffs, provided that their quarterback keeps them in the game. Like
Yeah,
that
they're
division
4-4.
is that division is still very much up for grabs.
The
I'm
Lions.
gonna
Okay,
go
I'm not
no.
going to say up for grabs. The wild card in the NFC is still
There
very
you
much
go.
up
Yeah.
for grabs.
That I completely agree with, right? Your second wild card spot in the NFC is to an extent. And I say that because at the moment, Seattle at 6-2 leads the West. It's not San Francisco.
Right.
So San Francisco is your first wild card, technically second, because they have a worse record than Dallas. And Dallas is your first wild card.
Yeah,
So
with your 3 losses. I mean, but still, like the 4 losses for the Vikings, they're still very much like playoffs are still very much in play.
they're one game out,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
They're one game out with the tiebreaker over San Francisco.
So I was just curious. Like, obviously, you never plan for your quarterback to rip his Achilles. And man, what a bummer for Kirk Cousins. Also, like, what a bummer for everybody who waited to draft Kirk Cousins and has just been reaping the benefits of Kirk Cousins this year. And now, kablamo.
There's been enough talent out there, though. I mean, you could pick up. I think there's
it's
enough
it's a
options
bummer.
of quarterbacks playing well that.
Yeah, it's just a bummer for him. And then they go and get Dobbs, and then they say, "Hey, the rook's going to start on Sunday."
The rook's starting, and then you have
Nick Mullins might
Nick
come back
Mullins
off of IR.
coming back off of IR. So it's a security blanket, right?
Right.
Like they're definitely getting a security blanket for it. We're going to see what the rookie can do. I mean, the good thing is you have, once Jefferson gets back, 3 elite pass catchers.
Yeah, Addison
With Addison, Hawkinson, and Jefferson. So you do have plenty of weapons. It's just a matter of can you drive it down the field, because all 3 of these guys expect to be fed, and it's going to be
able to run the football to free up things.
They haven't ran it all year long.
I know. I think those are mainly the big ones. Does the Peoples Jones move to Detroit do anything for you?
It's a depth piece.
Yeah, it's because Jones retired, right?
Yeah, he
Stepped
wasn't
away
doing
and
anything.
retired. So it's that, but I don't know that it necessarily does a whole lot. But because Detroit's already pretty well set too, right? Especially once Montgomery comes back, you have your 2-headed monster at running back, and after the way Gibbs has played, there's no way you're getting him back off the field like it was at the beginning of the season. Like each running back could see 15 touches, right? You could absolutely see that get scripted in, but then you have Laporta and St. Brown as your pass catchers on top of Gibbs, who can catch it out of the backfield. You have your goal line back returning in Montgomery, so he's not going to fumble on the 3 like Craig Reynolds did. So yeah, Peoples Jones will help, right? It'll push Jameson Williams to focus a little bit more on his craft, because he's been relatively silent since returning. So it'll help push him a little bit. But I think it is just more of a depth piece, right? It is bring a veteran in. He's cheap. You know, he's looking for a new start too. It didn't shake out the way that he wanted in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And go from there. But I don't know that it's not an earth-shattering move by any stretch.
Yeah.
And no Broncos were traded.
Shocker. Genuinely, I think if they would have lost that game against Kansas City, which I had this dumb feeling that they were going to go out and do something stupid, like win that game on Sunday. And they sure as heck did. I couldn't decide. I didn't get to watch much of it. I got to see some of it. But I couldn't decide if the Broncos won that game or if the Chiefs lost that game. And it kind of feels like the Chiefs lost that game.
I would tell you that the Broncos won that game because they forced those turnovers.
Fair. That's fair.
And the defense, for as bad as it was through the first 4 games of the season, the last 3 weeks has been playing much better. And the last 2 weeks in particularly have looked much closer to the Broncos that we saw in 2022 and 2021, where we kept saying we were a quarterback away.
Yeah.
Than what they did back in week 3 when we were embarrassed to don the orange and blue.
I was, I mean, look, you knew that Denver was playing the Chiefs close, right? The game 3 weeks ago, as it was now, because it was the Chiefs, and then
they've actually played them really well the last 4 times that they've met.
Right, they've played them close, and for whatever reason, Simmons seems to have Patrick Mahomes' number.
Yeah, 5 career interceptions against Mahomes. It's good for him, man.
Which is cool. Like nobody else. I don't think anybody else can say that, right? That they got 5 against him.
I don't think anybody else even has 3.
Right. So that's very cool. But they played them well that first meeting, and I think I had kind of this inkling that Denver was going to go out. You know, I thought the weather would play a factor. You know, any time where it's cold and you can shut down a passing offense when you introduce weather into it, I think that benefits a team that needs to muck it up. And Denver definitely needs to muck it up when it comes to playing against Kansas City.
And I think the thing I was most impressed with was how they controlled Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They limited Travis Kelce to 59 yards receiving. That's it. And historically, Denver's not good against the tight end. They have not been for the last decade. And the fact that they could go out in that game plan and execute by getting to Mahomes and forcing him off his spot on top of keeping Kelce contained was a testament to their growth.
Yeah.
And their ability to adapt to a Vance Joseph system.
Vance Joseph. Well, Vance Joseph has seen this story play out too many times with the Chiefs beating the Broncos, so he finally got one.
No, so it was good. I mean, there are a lot of good games on. No, the Eagles Commanders game was awesome.
Yeah,
it was an awesome game to watch. So that was a lot of fun.
It was a tough week for quarterbacks, though. There are a couple injuries, some interesting plays. Right, Will Levis looked the part. Will he be the part moving forward? Who knows? But he certainly looked the part.
It was a clear example of how good and how easy elite wide receivers can make your life. Yeah. And while DeAndre Hopkins may not be that guy week in and week out, he will still have games and it flashes like what he had. Now, 3 touchdowns was nuts. I did not see that coming at all. But, you know, imagine what a shot in the arm that would be for like Devontae Adams and how bad he wants Oakland to just find someone to get me the ball.
He wishes that they were still in Oakland.
Or, Vegas.
Yeah, you're good. I'm surprised he didn't get moved. Honestly, I'm surprised.
The Raiders are stubborn, man. They're not going
to
do anything wrong.
I know they are. That's a name that I was surprised didn't move.
Bam. So those are the real games. And as far as fantasy went, I mean, big weeks. A lot of scoring, right? Big weeks. Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, CeeDee Lamb, right? Jamar Chase had himself a good game, right? I mean, you're Amon-Ra St. Brown. Your top receivers showed out like top receivers. And even in a game where Keenan Allen did not have a ton of yards, if you're in a PPR league, 8 catches, I mean, he still got you 14 points, right? 8 catches, 60 some odd yards or whatever it was. I mean, so he still got you 14 some odd points, and it works.
Right.
So,
didn't lose you the week, that's for sure.
No, the receivers that hurt you were Kupp and Nakua.
Yeah.
Right? Those receivers hurt you a little bit. Zay Flowers. Mike Evans got in the end zone.
Chris Olave.
You'd have had a bad game. McLaurin got in the end zone again, right? Continues to beat up on Philadelphia a little bit. He had a solid game.
There was also a lot of thresholds met, right? So your 100-yard performances, or you get the bonus point for that. There's a lot of those thresholds that got met that I think helped propel scoring a lot this past week. And just on top of that, again, how many look, you get Prescott throws for 4 touchdowns, Levis throws for 4 touchdowns, Hurts and Howell in the same game throw for 4 touchdowns. And when that's happening, there's just points happening all over the place to different places,
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of fun, big scoring week, huge scoring week in the home league.
Unless you were on my roster. If you were on my starting roster, there was 0 chance that you put up points.
Scoring week.
Trey McBride.
Yes.
Had a bonkers week for tight ends.
Yes, he did. By the way, I want to hang out here at the tight end. So it was kind of funny, Alex, after on Friday when we went live, right? Like last Tuesday when we were talking, we had somebody ask the question about, do I drop Taysom Hill for Dalton Kincaid? And then Dalton Kincaid went out and had himself a pretty darn good game on the Thursday night deal, scored the touchdown, 60 yards, all of that. And before we went live on the Friday show, I looked at Kevin and I said, man, I feel kind of bad for that one, telling that dude that I would play Taysom Hill over Dalton Kincaid, because that's a pretty good bar to set for a tight end, get into the end zone, had a 12, 13-point week, just like that. And then Taysom Hill
touchdown shows up.
Taysom touchdown showed up. And so anyway, if you took that advice, you're welcome.
Rushing, receiving. Yeah, Taysom.
And it's worked. They have found a way to get Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara involved in the run game.
Right.
Which for the longest time, we were all screaming that you got to be able to figure this out. Quit taking Kamara off the field. And they've figured that out. Now you need to find a way to get Olave going.
Shoot, and you got a completion out of Taysom Hill too.
Chris Olave needs to stop dropping the damn ball.
Yeah.
There is something else. He had another 2, possibly 3 passes that he really should have brought in against Indianapolis, which would have completely turned around his stat line. But he is not seeing the ball all the way in right now for some reason. And it is frustrating because we all thought Olave would just go ham this year. And the first couple weeks of the season, we were feeling pretty good about that. But the last 4 weeks, he has been a frustrating player to have on your roster.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about it. Speaking of rosters, shall we get into some of the questions that we've got over here?
Yeah, let's see if we give them some tricks or treats tonight.
I like it. It is.
That's right. Shit,
yes,
it
is
Halloween.
All right. COD Reapers in the chat saying is 4-4, ranked 7th in the league, starting Love, Mostert, James Cook, Thielen, Metcalf, Logan Thomas, Myers. The bench has Trevor Lawrence, Bijan, or Brian Robinson, Jamal Williams, Romeo Dobbs, T. Higgins, Jerry Jeudy. Any pickups, any changes?
I think if you can, well, you can't play Lawrence this week because they're on a bye, but if you can upgrade at quarterback away from Jordan Love, I would look there.
I would agree. With Love not tossing 2 or 3 touchdowns a game like he did the first 3 weeks of the season, it's not going as well. So
right.
I would agree. You can look to pivot off of Jordan Love, and let's see what's on your waiver wire here real quick for quarterback specifically, and we'll maybe be able to do something there. Man.
I like Thielen. Thielen's got to stay in your starting lineup.
Thielen's staying. I get the Metcalf piece, and I like the Myers matchup.
Can't play Jeudy this week.
No, I was thinking Higgins possibly, but I think
I really like that Higgins matchup though. I do.
Against Buffalo. I think that has potential to be a big time game, right? Big time players show up in big time games. We know Higgins has been a little slow. And I'm not opposed to that, right? Like the Giants have had, I don't know. the Giants have had a rough run of things, but the Raiders' offense right now might be a little bit worse with their quarterback situation and the fact that Garoppolo is struggling. But I do like that matchup. So then I go back to Metcalf and how I feel about that. Right? Metcalf's going to get 5 for 65. Like that's kind of been his standard stat line here. So do we trust that T. Higgins can get 12 points or more against Buffalo?
I don't.
I'd tell you he has a higher ceiling.
Yeah, fair enough.
His floor might be slightly lower than Metcalf's, but I do think his ceiling is higher.
I'd agree with that. Did post his tight end deal. So he's got Logan Thomas. Would you swap out Logan Thomas for any of these guys? I don't know that I would.
I'd play Taysom Hill over Logan Thomas. The way the 3-week run that Taysom's had, I think it's worth the gamble. And knowing that is the selection that you have for tight end, even if you give up Thomas, you can turn around and pick up a Musgrave or an Njoku, and I think you'll be okay if Thomas gets picked up.
Fair enough.
So if you need the points and you need the win, I think it's worth the gamble playing Taysom.
Fair enough. Wide receivers with Dell, Douglas, Deontay, Johnson, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Boyd.
Is that Deontay?
I believe that's Deontay. Can't think of another D Johnson that kind of jumps off there.
And Chris Godwin's out there? Wow.
Yeah, I'd probably look at, if that's Deontay Johnson, I'd probably look at dropping Romeo Doubs at this point and picking up a Deontay, picking up a Godwin.
I think I'd grab Deontay and Godwin and drop Dobbs and Judy.
There you go. Would you swap out Jamal Williams for like a Chuba Hubbard? I think I probably would at this point, but
yeah, they're using Chuba.
I think you can.
They're using him a heck of a lot more than they're using Miles right now. Which I know Miles is coming back off of an injury, but Chuba is. I have that. Yeah, I have that as a handcuff in in the league I'm in with my high school buddies, and like that Chuba Hubbard play has worked out nicely.
Right, and there's a whole lot of that Jamal Williams that just I don't know what his role really is going to be in New Orleans going forward. Alvin Kamara's on a tear, looking 2-3 years younger type of thing, and they've got Taysom Hill down there in the goal line there as well. So I don't see what Jamal Williams' role is going to be going forward.
Yeah, I could co-sign that.
There you go, COD Reaper. You got quite a few.
Who's your quarterbacks out there? We got the receivers and the tight ends.
There we go.
Quarterbacks.
Stroud, Howell, Young.
You're playing Howell this week.
Howell.
Yes.
So drop Jordan Love, pick up Sam Howell, and start Howell.
Yeah.
No, you have to because Lawrence. And really, Howell's putting up just.
You're gonna have
quarterback decisions. Yeah, because Howell, his ceiling's been better than Lawrence's has this season. He's tossing it more.
Correct.
So, but Howell's a great play this week.
All right, should I drop Ferguson? This one from Terrence. Should I drop Ferguson to pick up McBride? Got must-win lineup.
This week against Cleveland, McBride's matchup is a little bit tougher. Now, Cleveland's defense has softened up here in the last couple weeks. But what I think
that's because their offense has softened up the past couple weeks. The defense is going to have to be doing more.
What I don't know and what I'm battling with in our home league is how does Clayton Tune fit into this? Or is Clayton Tune a 1-week guy and then Kyler's going to get it back? And we haven't quite gotten all that information yet. So for this week, with it being a must win, I think you got to play Ferguson. There's just too many unknowns this week. Now, if the offense remains the same, McBride's probably going to see more opportunities, but I guess I don't know if I can trust Clayton Tune to connect with 5 or 6 passes to Trey McBride. Like I'm struggling with that McBride play in the home league because I thought until today, I thought, sweet, I might have a tight end I can ride out for the season here now. Like we saw the upside. I was able to get him free. I didn't have to spend any fab on him, luckily. And he had a bonkers performance, which was nice in our home league. So I think Ferguson's the play this week, though, just because it's more certainty. And if it's a must win, you got to go with what you know. And you know that Dak will look at Ferguson in the red area.
Fair enough. Should I drop Spears or JSN for Fournette?
Spears.
Yes. Also, I don't know that I'm that gung-ho to pick up Fournette.
Yeah, but I mean, have they even activated Fournette off
He's
of
on the
practice squad?
They haven't activated him yet, but as long as he's the biggest thing is he in shape, right? Because that was always the knock on Fournette when he got into Tampa was he came in out of shape. So we really haven't gotten a report other than they signed him. But if you want Fournette, you got to get him now.
Yeah.
Like you have to make this gamble. And I think you can with the fact that Tennessee did not trade Derrick Henry.
Yep.
And if you're looking at these two, JSN's come on the last couple of weeks. He's showing a pop. So you got to drop Spears for Fournette if you're going to make this gamble. And quite frankly, I think it's going to be about the same. Like Fournette is not going to eat into James Cook. Fournette is going to eliminate
not even Damian Harris. Lat Murray.
Lat Murray, right?
Yeah.
Lat Murray's been terrible. And we're starting to see it a little bit more. James Cook had 64% of the snap share last week. And he is the best back on that team. It is clear that he's the best back on that team. He's running at 4.8 yards a clip. So he's able to run well. And he's the most dynamic catching the ball out of the backfield with the ball in his hands. But Fournette is a better goal line back. He's a better short yardage back. And he's quite possibly still a better pass blocking back, right? So he does some of those extra things that you do a little bit better. And when you need some of those hard yards and just to knock a guy over and go, that's Fournette's game. Like he's had a good run of doing that in Jacksonville and Tampa Bay. So Fournette's upside is now higher because of the red zone carries than what Spears' upside is, just kind of getting whatever they throw. And with Will Levis under center, captain check down is gone. You are not going to see Will Levis check the ball down. He didn't do it a whole lot in college. Every once in a while to Rodriguez, he did because that's how Tennessee's offense flowed. But having Hopkins, having Treylon Burks back and getting him back into shape and going, you're going to see Chiggy a little bit more involved. The passing game for Tennessee has and will evolve overnight just because of how Will Levis plays. He's more of a traditional old school Brett Favre type gunslinger than he is the modern day Tom Brady check down, just play it safe guy.
Cosign. Should I start Jerome Ford over Najee Harris?
Yes.
I would. The matchup's far better. Arizona, Ford against Arizona, Najee against Tennessee.
I can understand the hesitancy, right? But I think on the short week with
Najee, easy on him last week with the ankle. He was okay, right? He played okay. I think he gets his full workload against Arizona, especially with Tune at quarterback. I think this is going to be we might see another game where there's 34 punts like there was in the Jets-Giants game. So you might see something like that going on down there with neither team moving the ball a whole heck of a lot, but both the Cleveland for sure is going to be able to move it on the ground. That offensive line is good enough, and you just got to figure out what Arizona is going to do to try and get the ball down the field a little bit. So, yes, Ford over Harris.
Should I start Higgins, Cooper, or Pickens in the flex?
Higgins this week.
I am Higgins.
I could go that way, but
it's a 36 total for that Thursday night game. And
it's
just saw Pickens come off of a really terrible performance, saved by a touchdown. I'm playing Higgins in the upside of what the Bengals.
Kenny Pickett who got hurt last week and is like, yeah, I'm definitely playing.
You've talked me into it. Higgins, unanimous.
Just trust the quarterback more.
Should I start Stroud this week or stream quarterback? Well,
who you streaming?
But the answer is Stroud's probably a top 10 quarterback this week, so you'd have to have a really good stream.
Like Stroud's been good this year.
If Sam Howell's out there, I might look at Sam Howell.
Yeah. The Ravens or the Browns this week for defense?
Ooh, Browns going up against Arizona.
Facts.
Yeah.
Is Cup still a must start?
We got to wait and see what Stafford's thumb is going to look like.
Right. And even then, like that's
still yes. Like
right.
I don't think you have
nothing else. You'd have a hard
Cup.
Right. Even if nothing else, he should be in there as a flex play if you've got two wide receivers that are better that week for you. But you'd be hard pressed to tell me that you got a flex that's also better in that spot. Marcos saying over on the Facebook, Waller's been killing me. Have a chance to pick up Kincaid or McBride. Thoughts? Thank you. Kincaid is your answer.
Especially this week, Kincaid's your answer. I'm not convinced that long term it's not McBride, right? If Kyler gets under center, it is going to be McBride, not Kincaid.
I would agree with that.
But until we know
is Kyler ever going to get under center?
And that's what it is. Well, they activated him,
right?
Huh? I mean, they brought him. I mean, so my guess is they're going to try to. They're going to see how it shakes out in practice and everything else. But until he hits the field, it's Dalton Kincaid.
Right. One of the things that I've been
play him. Go ahead and play him. Right. Daniel Jones has looked like poo. We had cracked. Did they officially say it was a cracked rib on Tyrod?
It was something with the ribs that he ended up leaving the stadium to go to the hospital during the game to get further evaluation.
And they kept him overnight.
Right. So
Kincaid,
you got that
for now.
And one of those two, as far as the Kyler news, from everything I've been reading, seeing out there, reports coming out, it sounds very much like the plan is that he wants to try and play without the brace coming back. So bit of an interesting move there, but it also looks like he's been spotted at practice running through some of those practices without the brace. So those are all positive signs and looking good there. So my guess is week 10 is probably when we'll see the Kyler, which I'm hoping so. My home team, my home league roster needs it. Tino saying, what's up, guys? Not much, Tino. Appreciate you chiming in, tuning in. Tino's got a good channel over there as well. Go check it out when you get a chance. All righty. Well, should we hit into some pines and shines? Any other thoughts that we want to talk about before we get into the pine and shine recap?
No.
Very cool. Pine and shine recap, and we have a new we have a new weekly winner.
Did I do
it?
It
was not.
Oh, Kevin did a thing.
It was not. It was not a Kevin.
It was not a Kevin.
That
no,
says it's Kevin.
It wasn't Gibbs.
It was not. Wait until we get to the scoring there, but it was not you, my friend. You can tell by my pine here, my scoring, that it certainly wasn't me either.
We did a thing. All right. I said to pine Kenneth Walker, and that paid off handsomely, I might add. The Jamar Chase call, kind of, but not really. And Dallas Goedert didn't find the end zone finally. I finally got a Dallas Goedert call correct. How about that?
There you go.
I threw that dart 7 times before it finally connected.
Bullshit. I'm losing points on Tyreek.
That's rough.
I was right. He was not the top scoring wide receiver of the week. Like, I don't care what this says. I was right. He was not wide receiver 1 on the week.
It's not the game, Kevin.
Wasn't even top 5.
Game.
Wasn't even top 5.
Not arguing with you. I'm just telling you.
Just saying. This wedding's horse shit.
Good call on Darren Waller, though.
Yeah.
Great call on Darren Waller. Great call on Darren Waller. You got 49 points total, and 45 of them came from Darren Waller.
That's right. So I needed this.
Absolutely.
And I needed Derek to take a beating like this.
I took a good one too. So Josh Jacobs, yep, that didn't work. CeeDee Lamb certainly didn't work. And Dalton Kincaid, that one didn't work either. So a whole lot of negative for my Pines this week. Let's go ahead and move on in here to the shines, and the shine away.
Oh, this was a lot closer than I thought. Aaron Jones did not do well, but a nice showing from Michael Pittman, and Tyler Higbee did better than he was projected.
Freaking Drake London.
Yeah, Drake London gotcha.
The Hayden Hurst didn't help out either.
Good call on Gibbs, though. You had 2 really, really good calls, Kevin.
Yeah. How Gibbs went from 12 to 2, and I only got 23 points. But Tyreek goes from 1 down to 6, and I lost points. I didn't get – we're going to revamp how this looks. Let me tell you.
Let's do it.
1 week.
I'm all open for ideas here.
I know.
I actually got positive on my shines, unlike my massive negative on my Pines here. Devin Singletary, that one lost me a couple there, but Josh Downs had an okay week, got me a little bit positive. Logan Thomas had a fairly good week, got me positive there. And drum roll, here we go. Alex has his first Pine and Shine victory of the season there, getting 43.6 points positive. Kevin taking the second spot there on the week, 35.8 points. And I decided to give points back this week, going negative 41 points. So you guys both of you get closer to, as I decide to, we have about an 80-point differential this week here where it gets closer.
Yay.
It's all good.
I'm trending in the right direction. That's all I need to see. That's 3 weeks in positive numbers.
I say, Derek's 3 monster weeks have just been tough to compete against.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, the problem is what those monster weeks sometimes are followed by big swings and misses, like this last week as well. So.
You got the cushion; you can handle it.
That's true. All righty, couple of questions here before we get into our Thursday night preview. COD Reaper saying it's not Chris Godwin, it's Marquise Goodwin. No, do not pick Marquise Goodwin.
No. So, yes, forget Goodwin. So now drop Dobbs and pick up who? Sorry, who were we saying?
There you go.
There we
Deontay
go.
Johnson.
Yeah, Deontay Johnson. Drop Dobbs, pick up Johnson.
Boom. With one, so Terrence saying with one of the top waiver picks, should I take Howell and play him over Stroud, pick up the Browns and play over the Ravens, or drop Spears and stash Fournette?
I go Howell. Howell over Stroud.
If we're burning a waiver priority, though, at that point, I'm going to do something that's more than just a weekly rental type of thing there. And I'd probably
Howell's not a weekly rental.
It is when you're a CJ Stroud manager, right? Like you're gonna be bouncing back and forth between the two of those playing the matchups. The thing that has the biggest potential to shake that up would be the Fournette. Would be the Fournette move,
Yeah.
right? And that's it's a lottery shot, is what it is, right? Like you're pushing kind of your chips in the middle there on that one there, and we're very convinced that Spears is not going to get much work left with Will Levis being the quarterback. Fournette at least gives you the unknown upside shot there that he could do that, and he could potentially get goal line work in a offense that should see the red zone a fair bit. But if you want to use the priority to pick up Howell and go Stroud, I'm not gonna blame you on that one. But if I'm on burn waiver priority, I'm gonna do something that has the potential to really shift the outlook of my team.
Is this the win now week that you're talking about with Ferguson, Terrence?
Be my guess.
Is this the same? Well, I always like to make sure, and I know not everyone has all the leagues that you and I do, Derek, but if it's the same league and it's win now, then you need to pick up the Browns and play them over the Ravens. That's your first waiver priority. Then your second waiver priority, Spears, or drop Spears, pick up Fournette. And then your third is to grab Howell, and then you can play musical quarterback here for a little while. Because Stroud does have a good matchup against Tampa Bay. Like, he just does, right? And the Patriots have not been playing overly well, but they have had a couple games of serviceable play, right, where they've made things difficult on a quarterback.
Right. The problem is with Howell, you're pretty much you're going to have a hard time finding ways to use him after week 13. Week 14, he has his bye. Week 15, he's up against the Rams, who've been very stingy against fantasy points against opposing quarterbacks. Then he's got the Jets. Well, yes. Then the Jets, then San Francisco. So some of those are going to be a little tough there. But yeah, there are some favorable matchups there with New England. Okay, Seattle's been doing all right against quarterbacks. Miami, the Giants. There's certainly some big upswings there. And Terrence is saying yes, that it's a win now.
Then for the win now, then I think you got to hit the Browns, right? That's the play that will make the most sense for this week win now. And then it's Fournette to play the long game, and then it's Howell as the luxury to play in between him and Stroud.
All righty. I like it.
Because Stroud's schedule down the stretch ain't much better. If Denver keeps playing the way they are in 13, the Jets in 14, those are tough. Tennessee in 15 is nice. But then you have Cleveland in 16. That's your semis. And then Tennessee in 17. That's a nice championship game matchup. So your quarters and finals is good, but your semi matchup against Cleveland, you don't want Stroud that week.
No, that could be a little tough there.
So.
And he's also got Trevor Lawrence there as well, which just happens to be on a bye. So, yeah, the Browns, just like Kevin just listed that out. All right. So, Achane coming back week 11, Williams, week 12 or 13. Should I just write it out with Hall, Ford, and Harris? Some of that's going to depend on what your other options are. Breece Hall has sneakily been a top 10 back the last
very
4
reliable,
weeks.
Right?
Right. Ford will be all right for you. Harris, like you can ride that out until then. I would think.
I think you would be okay
because you've got Breece Hall as kind of a cemented RB1 in there, and then you can really see what Achane and Williams look like when they come back. Ford and Harris can be a serviceable RB2 for you, and you're just playing some different flex options there until they come back.
Ford's a good RB2, but he keeps getting nicked up. Like my biggest fear is that he's finally going to pick up an injury that sticks. And then you're stuck with Harris, and being forced to play Harris as an RB2 is not nearly as comfortable as being able to pivot to him as an RB2 if the matchup shakes out.
Fair. All right, COD Reaper saying here's what he's got now: Howell, Mostert, Thielen, Higgins, Hill, Myers, the bench, Hubbard, B-Rob, Judy, Deontay Johnson, Metcalf.
I like it.
Yeah. All righty. And again, guys, you have any other questions, throw them in the comments here. Let's get those rocking and rolling. We ready to hit up some Thursday night football?
Thursday. What a boring game this is going to be.
Yeah, rough week.
Yes.
Wrong slide.
You're not kidding.
Week 1.
Yeah, I don't know how that one happened. Anyway, don't have another slide. So we're going to rock and roll with
Fair enough.
Without it.
So the Tennessee Titans are traveling up to the great state of Pennsylvania to play the Pittsburgh Steelers this Thursday night, where we locked it in at a 3-point spread, Pittsburgh being favored, with an over-under of 36. Alex, how do you see this one going?
Give me Tennessee plus the points. I'll take the under, and then I'll wait on the prop after you guys go through your pick.
Okay. I'm going to take Tennessee, but I like the over. And this is a little bit of recency bias towards Will Levis. Like, I think he's going to continue to force the ball down the field. And I think that Tennessee is going to have I think Derrick Henry is going to find some success in this game too. So Levis isn't going to have to do as much, but nevertheless, he's going to be able to be efficient. So I like Tennessee coming away with this game. Damn near outright. Pittsburgh just hadn't been playing well enough. But I do like the over. I think we'll see, 38, 39 points in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to be on board with you with the Tennessee. I think that that's a tough one for Pittsburgh right now, who hasn't looked very good. So I'm going to take Tennessee with the points on that one. I do like the under on this one. Like the Will Levis thing, I think you're right. Like, definitely saw some flashes there, saw some down the field shots. Pittsburgh has a tendency to give up lots of fantasy points to opposing wide receivers there. But I think that we also see them do a little maybe something different here, hopefully, and keep this thing under. This also is predicated on Tennessee having to put up, close to 30 points, I think, for it to get there, because Pittsburgh has the problem also scoring points. So this is one of those, I think this is more of a, even call it a 18-10, 17-10, 17-13 type of matchup. Like, this is going to be one of those with a total of 30, I think, closer to than a total closer to 40. But George Pickens, I see him going over 3.5 receptions.
I'm taking Najee Harris over 8.5 receiving yards. He's been over this mark 3 out of his last 4 games as he's getting involved more in the passing game. Pittsburgh's trying to find a way to get him going, and Tennessee, he's going to struggle to run the ball. So I think we're going to see him have it tossed his way just a little bit more.
Cool. I'm going to take Kenny definitely playing on Thursday. Pickett under 1.5 touchdown passes. I since I'm taking the under, I'll take the under on the total. I'll take the under on this one too.
Makes sense.
Kind of need it to happen.
I really like the air quotes definitely playing on Thursday.
That's what he said.
He did. Definitely. I mean, he was
definitely playing.
Definitely playing on Thursday. Definitely.
Yeah.
So, all righty. Let's go ahead and get into the Pine and Shine for week 9. Here we go. Pine, Shine, week 9.
All right. I'll start us off here. And I'm going to be honest with you. Normally I do like a lot of research into this and look at, matchups and see what defense is playing well and if they've had a previous meeting and blah, 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 blah. I do a lot. I actually do a fair amount. The results don't actually show it more often than not, but I do a fair amount of research into these picks that I make. But this week I did not. I just found people that I thought were ranked too high on the Fantasy Pros rankings. So that's where I just went with here. And so my Pine running back this week will be Jonathan Taylor for no reason other than maybe Zach Moss. That's it. That I have no defense against any of these this week. Other than it's just what I was feeling.
So Moss had more fantasy points this past week, but largely that was due to the receiving game. Jonathan Taylor did have 95 yards on the ground, but needs to find the end zone to be,
Well, he's listed
getting you there. So
he's listed as running back 7.
Big number to hit.
That's a big number to hit.
So I'm going to say I'm pining Raheem Mostert this week going up against Kansas City. I think this game overseas in Frankfurt, yes, the running game typically travels unless you're these two teams. And I think Patrick Mahomes, coming off the flu game or whatever the hell Kansas City fans are justifying that loss up to, we're trying to reset the tone. This one has playoff seeding implications, right, with these two teams. Miami has yet to beat an AFC contender yet, right? Like they beat up on kind of the dredges of the AFC and the NFC, but when going up against the Eagles and the Bills twice, have yet to find themselves successful. So I'm going to say Raheem Mostert struggles on the ground here a bit.
Fair enough. I'm going to take Tony Pollard on this one. He's currently the running back 12 ranking this week. Now he's got a tough matchup going up against Philadelphia in Philly. And this is one in which Philadelphia gives up the fewest points to opposing fantasy running backs. So I think this one's just going to be a tough one. I think he's going to underperform his projections here. Let's head on over to the wide receivers.
You should trade him, Derek. Garbage.
Make me an offer.
All right.
So I'm going to go with Devontae Adams, who is projected to be wide receiver 8, and that feels like easy money here. Here is his last 3 games. 1 catch on 7 targets for 11 yards, 7 catches on 12 targets for 57 yards, 2 catches on 5 targets for 29 yards, 4 catches on 4 targets for 45 yards. He has not found the end zone in his last 5 games. How are we ranking this dude in a top 10 when he had 1 freaking catch last week? And it was his quarter. It was Garoppolo playing. It wasn't AOC. It wasn't Brian Hoyer. It was Garoppolo. I don't understand it. So Devontae Adams, Pine.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it until he busts out, right?
Right. And I know that, like, we say this, we're saying, like, oh, these are dudes that are going to fall short of their projection. This is a dude that you might actually have to consider removing from your starting lineup if you have a better option. Like, that's where we're at with Devontae Adams.
So, yeah, this will be interesting, right? Going up against the Giants. Again, same reason I like Jacoby Myers is because of the matchup. I like the matchup. I don't love the quarterback situation in Vegas right now. It's making it difficult, but I can get behind it. I'm saying Pine Keenan Allen this week. Going up against the Jets, they've been very stingy to opposing wide receivers. This pass rush has been getting after it, been very gritty. And we're going to see what type of momentum the Chargers gained by beating up on the Bears Sunday night. But this Jets team just isn't going away, right? They are finding ways to win. They're playing a little bit better offensively. And the defense is holding strong, knowing that they got to anchor this team. So I think Keenan Allen's going to have a subpar week here in week 9.
Fair enough. I'm going to go with Devonta Smith, who just had a big-ish game there. Coming off of that one. Overall in the season has not been great. Up against a tough Dallas matchup who gives up the 10th fewest points to opposing fantasy wide receivers here. And I think that Devonta Smith misses his projection. Right now he's currently the wide receiver 12 ranked, projected to do about 12 points. But I think we're going to see an underperformance here. Let's go ahead and hit up tight ends.
So I know that we just got done talking about how Taysom Hill is going to be like an awesome play this week. But I'm out to get points. So here we go. Taysom Hill, put him in the Pine.
I almost was going to put him as my shine. So
you probably should be.
It's like,
look, I mean, realistically, I should keep with tradition here and throw Dallas Goedert's name down and just continue to ride that train. But I won't for the sake of the game.
It's all good. I have Dalton Schultz as my Pine for tight end this week. Tampa Bay does do a good job against the tight end. They struggle a little bit in the back end of the secondary to wide receivers here, but they have done a good job controlling the tight end. So CJ Stroud's security blanket is going to be tough for him here this week. Pine, Dalton Schultz.
My Pine is a guy that I'm still amazed that keeps getting ranked up in like the top 6 at the position here. Kyle Pitts is going to be my pine of the week, and he's projected to be the tight end 6, projected to do about 8.1 points. Now, Minnesota, who they are facing, give up the 7th fewest fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Not only that, we just saw an offense in which they designed a play in which the highest drafted tight end ever was blocking for the tight end 2 to try and throw a trickery pass to the tight end 3 on the team. Like the team is actively not utilizing Kyle Pitts there. And we've got some issues at quarterback as well. Who knows what this is going to look like?
So picture this, if you will. You have the Atlanta Falcons organization, and it is essentially a zoo, right? So picture a zoo. You have your animals in cages, you have them behind glass, and they're fun to look at. And every once in a while they yawn or they make a sound, and everyone points and goes, "Ooh, look at that. That's so cool." And then you want to go to the special exhibit and like, okay, like let's see him do a trick. Let's see him run really fast. Let's see him, do whatever this thing does at the zoo. And the zoo goes, "No, you're just paying. You're just going to pay to see it. That's it." Like they're not actually going to do anything. Like, so it's like a zoo that's actually an art museum. You pay to go see it. It doesn't do squat. And that's what the Falcons have done with Bijan, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts. Like Arthur Smith is an abomination to the fantasy world. He is an abomination to the fantasy world. How in God's green earth do you go up against the Tennessee Titans and you don't unleash your passing game? Like, it is absolutely beyond me. Like, the only time anything good happened with any of these players is when Arthur Smith got up, went to the bathroom, and then they went, "Haha, tricked you." And then Bijan scored a touchdown. It's like, ooh, he didn't see it. It didn't happen. And as soon as Arthur Smith came back, they lock him back up in their cage. Like, it is mind-blowing, the talent that Atlanta has at these skill positions, and they have no idea what they're doing with it. They have no idea what they're doing with it. They're just collecting art to hang it on the wall and saying, "Oh, look how nice that is." I wonder what the painter was thinking when he put this together. Well, I don't know, but you ain't going to touch it, so go away.
Okay, I like it.
That's a fantastic metaphor.
Yes, it is.
I just want to appreciate that.
Garbage.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
But I want to dive deeper down this rabbit hole for a moment. So let's go down the rabbit hole here a little bit. Worst coach, Arthur Smith, Adam Gase.
Oh. Gase.
At least we had to think about it for a second.
Gase was able to trick so many people. He was able to trick so many people.
I get
it is tough. I'm
okay.
leaning Gase because he burned me personally.
I think it's Arthur Smith, but now the question is, worst current coach, Josh McDaniels or Arthur Smith? Like, there's only 32 of these jobs. Like, how do you have people so terrible at this?
Wow.
I can't even
the long pause.
Yes.
Like, you can't even flip a coin and decide. You just want to hang on its edge. Like,
also, Josh McDaniels I'm personally victimized by, so I don't. Although I maintain that Josh McDaniels was the reason that we got Super Bowl 50, that the Broncos won Super Bowl 50. It was Josh McDaniels. His utter incompetency forced John Elway to come back and be involved, which then landed Peyton Manning. Because without John Elway talking to Peyton Manning doesn't come to Denver. And then obviously we win Super Bowl 50. Not because of Peyton Manning. I mean, because of Peyton Manning, but we won Super Bowl 50 because Josh McDaniels was so bad at his job.
Like, that's a lot of mental gymnastics to get there.
It's the butterfly effect, right?
And I can see how you do it. But in order to get there, you would have to have brought up Super Bowl 48, which then caused Denver to reamp the defense that led
Right.
to the Super Bowl 50.
I
Like,
agree. But
there's
Peyton
some
Manning was
butterfly
the
effect that
constant.
you missed
But Peyton
there.
Manning was the constant there.
Who's John Fox?
Right. But it was John Fox. But John Fox had to leave, and then they brought Kubiak back, and that's how we got
the Cougs.
Anyways,
Anyway.
Josh McDaniels' total utter incompetency forced John Elway to come back, and because of that, we landed Peyton Manning. Ipso facto, we won Super Bowl 50. Sorry, that's all I needed to say.
All I'm saying, there's 32 of these jobs, and 2 of them are occupied by complete nincompoops who.
Be careful. Say that to Dabo Sweeney, is going to go off on a tangent on you there for 15 minutes.
Dabo Sweeney has national championships to hang up on his rafter and say, you know what? I have accomplished this. Like, yes, it's been tough the last 2.5, 3 years, whatever, but I have natties to sit back and admire. McDaniels has a whole lot of nothing.
Oh, yeah.
And Arthur Smith.
He's got rings as an assistant.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, I think we dove down that rabbit hole.
I drove next to a Lamborghini today, guys.
What are we doing now? Are we still on Shine? We're on Pines.
Yeah, we're trying to go to Shine. Let's go to Shine. I see everybody in the comments there. We will come back and hit up the comments. Let's get to the Shine.
Did you really drive next to a Lamborghini today? Just kidding.
No, it was a Fiat.
Oh, Fiat Panda. All right. I can see how you could mistake that. All right.
Yeah,
my Shine running back this week, I'm gonna go Alexander Madison. They're gonna have to run the football, right? Like, Minnesota's gonna have to run the football. If for nothing else, Madison should get some volume. I know that Cam Akers is a thing, but Madison should get some volume, and that alone, I think, will propel him to be better than the running back 24 he is projected to finish.
Cam Akers week.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Takeover's coming. I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker. It's currently ranked at running back 14, 11.9 points for the week. I think this is a bounce back week for him. The Ravens have been giving it up on the ground a little bit more than people realize. And yes, they beat Arizona, but they did kind of squeak away with that game. Arizona gave them all they wanted and then some. But I think this is an opportunity for Kenneth Walker to have a bounce back performance here and shine his performance.
Fair enough. I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt, who, has kind of come on strong last couple of games here. Yes, Ford has been a little nicked up here. However, the last 3 weeks, we've seen an RB8, an RB11, and an RB13 finish. All of that. He's managed to find the end zone in 3 consecutive weeks. So I'm kind of going to ride the hot hand here a little bit up against a very juicy matchup where they play Arizona, and Arizona gives it the 5th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. He's currently the running back 25 on the week, projected to do about 9.7 points. So Kareem Hunt, looking for him to hunt here a little bit. Let's move to wide receivers.
My wide receiver this week is one that I keep coming back to, it feels like, but I'm going to go with Rashee Rice. I know it's a Frankfurt game. There's a lot going on there. He didn't have that great of a game against Denver, and truth be told, he hasn't really seen a ton of volume when it comes to, Patrick Mahomes finding him. But when he does, generally the passes that he's get thrown his way, he is catching. So, he's very efficient. And if he can find his way into the end zone, then it will bode well for him. So Rashee Rice is currently wide receiver 30, projected 9.5 points. I think he could easily, if he finds the end zone, we're smashing past that 9.5.
So I like it. He's been the most consistent pass catcher, not named Travis Kelce.
Right.
So I like it. So I'm going to go with Demario Douglas for the Patriots. Now, this is not a sexy pick, but this is a pick that the targets have to go to somebody. Kendrick Bourne had out-targeted and out-received the entire wide receiving core for the Patriots by himself and was on pace to have a very nice little season until his unfortunate ACL tear. We wish you a speedy recovery. Now, those targets have to go somewhere. Demario Douglas has been kind of the next guy up. Like, he has been seeing a little bit more. His snap share continues to increase. His target share has been increasing the last 3 weeks. And now with this injury, he is kind of the guy in town. So I think Demario Douglas, currently ranked wide receiver 47 with a projected total of 8.8. I think he can get past this. I think you can see him with 10 points this week.
Fair enough. I'm going to go with a Rashid Shaheed, who's currently the wide receiver 40, projected to do about 8.1 points. The Bears, they allow a lot of points to opposing fantasy teams, but they're actually a top 12 team in fewest points allowed to opposing wide receivers. So on the surface, looks a little tough there from that aspect. However, Shaheed has done a great job getting behind zones. The Bears play a ton of zone coverage, right? They play 70% zone, across their defensive snaps there. So lots of opportunity for Shaheed to break one loose and get in the end zone. We've seen him have 2 top 5 weeks here the last 3 weeks. So looking for him to have a pretty good game here, a pretty big week. Let's go ahead and move on over to the tight ends.
For no reason other than his name, I felt was way too low on the weekly rankings.
Yeah, I thought that last week.
I'm gonna go with Hayden Hurst, and let's hope it actually works this time. He's projected. He's projected tight end 31, 3.8 points.
I'm going David Njoku going up against the Cardinals. We saw Mark Andrews do well the last few years. Arizona's been wretched against the tight end. They are slightly better this year, but nevertheless, whether it's Deshaun Watson coming back and playing, it doesn't sound likely, but it's possible. But with a sore shoulder, I expect his air yards is going to be down, which benefits Njoku. Or if it's PJ Walker, who struggles to read the ball down the field, Njoku's been seeing a larger target share with PJ Walker under center. So I think either way, it does speak to the fact that he is underranked at tight end 14 and a 7.6 projection.
I like it. I'm going to go with Tyler Conklin, who's the tight end 23 on the week, projected to do about 4.9 points here. Conklin coming off of a very down week where he failed to record a catch, right? He went 0 for 2 last week. However, the Chargers give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing teams, the 7th most points to opposing tight ends here. And I think Tyler Conklin finds a way to get to outperform that projection of 23 ranking. So looking for him to have a pretty good week there. Any other thoughts here on the Pines, on the Shines?
No, we're coming for you, D.
All right, let's do it.
Going to try to stay positive.
Well, you let me, if you let me go at it, I'll get in my way enough that I'm sure I can stumble there and help you out that way too. Oh, by the way, the Kevin, your protests were heard by the league office there on that one, and they looked into it, and you were correct. The Tyreek Hill should not have lost 2 points on that one. There was an error in the sheet there where his projected points were lower on that one. So that's been corrected. However, even with that correction, Alex still had the best week last week.
Bummer.
He edged you out by 1.1 points.
That's a fair league office right there. That's a very fair league office.
Now, what would you have done if I came back and said that the league had decided that yada yada yada? And
Leagues are final. It'd be like a real
surprise.
NFL. Yeah. Be like the real NFL. Hey,
leave it to the man to stick it to us employees.
All right, let's go ahead and get to these questions here. Terry, welcome back into the chat there, Terry. There we go. That looks more like it. Got to drop one. Sanders, Christian Watson, Donta Foreman, or Alexander Madison. Full PPR. He says he's leaning towards Forrest and then meant Foreman.
Yeah. Foreman's not playing right now, is he?
Yeah.
Foreman's playing?
It's Foreman or Watson, honestly. Like, and again, I am no lack of record being anti Christian Watson, so it's no surprise there. But if there's 3 running backs and 1 wide receiver, you probably need to drop one of the running backs to keep yourself a little balanced. So Donta Foreman, Herbert's coming back. Roshan Johnson is we saw him look better, right, than Foreman did against the Chargers. And as long as he doesn't have any on the field setbacks, and I think they played it pretty safe with this concussion thing to give him plenty of time to heal, so he should be good. I think that Foreman's the right call here to drop.
Cosign.
Yeah.
COD Reaper asking Jahan Dotson over Judy. That's got to be a waiver
This week
wire
for
drop.
sure.
It's going to be a waiver wire drop type of thing. Would be my guess.
It doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies. Judy's turned it like he's kind of turned it around the last 2 weeks, right? I still don't trust him, but I'm trying to do everything I can to figure out ways to not play Jerry Jeudy. So, my opinion here is quite biased.
I think you're trading the same guy. Like you're dropping and picking up the same guy, right? So, I mean, Washington typically throws the ball a little bit more than Denver, right? We've had bigger weeks out of Sam Howell. Both have been a disappointment. Jeudy, a larger disappointment from where people were drafting him, even if you got him at a discount. Yeah, I guess I don't hate it if you feel like you have to do it. I wouldn't do it because I'm not in love with Jahan Dotson. We have some friends of ours who run another show who are massive Dotson fans, like massive Jahan Dotson fans. They cannot believe the fact that we hate on him so much. So they would tell you Dotson over Jeudy. So it really is kind of a 50-50 call here. I would lean Jeudy if I had to put a name to it. I would keep him.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I just don't.
Like neither one leaves a good taste in your mouth.
Yeah, he's a bad on that one. But I would stick with the Jeudy route, even though it hasn't been a fun ride. Terry asking, should I drop Jalen Warren for Douglas, second best QB streamer, Geno at Baltimore, Young versus Indianapolis, Love versus the Rams, Jones versus the Raiders, or Mac against Washington? Smacking my head emoji.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
If you need help at receiver, yeah, go ahead and pick up Douglas. I mean, but if I remember correctly, Terry, your wide receiver room was pretty well stacked, unless you're talking about a different league from what I remember. So you may not need it. But if you need the receiver, yeah, grab Douglas. If you don't, then you're holding on to Warren and just kind of sitting back and waiting for a definitive leader in the clubhouse in Pittsburgh the back half of the year. Or if there's an injury occurs to Najee Harris, Jalen Warren at least gets all the touches instead of, 45% of them.
Fair enough.
This quarterback thing has got me messed up. I feel like, man, Geno at Baltimore. Like, Geno is the best option here. It's just that at Baltimore, that's a very big problem.
Geno's the way to go there. Like
it is.
I'm not paying Jordan Love going up against the LA Rams team that was just embarrassed. Like, I don't want to play Daniel Jones in his first start back against the
Mac
Raiders.
is not.
And Mac.
So realistically, it's Bryce Young against Indy or Geno.
I'm going Geno.
Which is Young, and I think Young's a close second because of the matchup, right? Indy has not been good on the outside, so Adam Thielen should feast. You kind of get your points there, but I'm taking the overall talent of Seattle.
Yeah, this is a completely different conversation if it's not at Baltimore. Like, it's Geno hands down 9 times out of 10. And realistically, out of this group, it's going to be 10 out of 10. But like, ugh.
Yeah, Gino is the second part of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
COD saying that Debo Samuel is free, thinking about dropping Judy for
Of course
Debo.
he's free.
Thoughts?
COD, he's American.
What's his timeline? Like, I don't know that I don't hate that. I don't hate dropping Judy for Debo.
I don't hate that either.
Like, and I'm not a Debo lover, but I think Debo has better opportunity in a San Francisco offense than Judy's seeing in a Denver offense. Their floors are about the same. Like, Debo's on a bye this week, so's Judy, so you're not gaining or losing anything. It's just a matter of whether we think Debo's going to come back in week 10 or if, which you assume he is, right? They didn't stick him on IR.
He is still like working out. 5 days ago, he was spotted running off to the side during practice.
Yeah, you don't land on your shoulder when you're running. I think
looks like there's a good chance. Seem to have a good chance to be available November 12th. So yeah, it's not that long.
Take the upside.
Yeah,
take the upside of Debo. I'd do it.
There you go. Big Goo.
Big Goo. I like that.
I like that. Over on the YouTube. What's up, y'all? First time checking out the channel. Like the convo. Had something that was offered. Just wanted to see what y'all think for rest of the season. Ridley and Stevenson for Gibbs.
Would you be getting which side of this are you getting? And I guess that's almost irrelevant.
On the Gibbs side.
Here's why I do. Gibbs is the best player in the deal, but I do, and we were talking about this pre-show. I think once Montgomery comes back, I think Gibbs and Montgomery are both going to see about 15 touches a game. Right. So instead of Montgomery seeing 26 carries and Gibbs seeing, 6 to 8 touches, I think maybe they're both going to see 15, 16 touches a game. And it's going to be a little bit more spread out. And it's going to be, dependent on where they are on the field. Montgomery is going to see the goal line work. So Gibbs, his damage is going to have to come through the passing game and longer runs. I don't see him getting the ball inside the 10. That is David Montgomery. That's why you signed David Montgomery. So yes, he's had 2 really good weeks. But I think rest of season outlook, I think you need to see Gibbs as a mid RB2, right? He's not going to have the high end RB1 upside like he's had the last couple weeks. So that
Monty could sneak into back end RB1 just with the red zone work.
Yes. Yeah, he could. Absolutely. He fall into the end zone twice, and that's
a whole lot of
right. Ridley, we've seen ups and downs, right? You'd be getting Ridley and Stevenson. Honestly, I would see if there's a possibility to upgrade either Ridley or Stevenson. So wherever you feel like you need more help on wide receiver or running back is the one that I would try and upgrade on to see if that's a possibility. Because typically the first offer, more often than not, is the least amount the person wants to pay for said player, right? And then you work on negotiations from there. So I'd start some dialogue, right? And say, look, it's not that I'm opposed to moving Gibbs, but Stevenson and Ridley have both drastically underperformed. Stevenson, plays on an inept offense, and Ridley is completely boomer bust this season. Like, I need something more consistent in return, and see what that gets you.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And if you don't like it, don't do it. Right? You can run Gibbs and have it be an RB2, and you'll be just fine. He is not going to go back to what it was the first 4 weeks of the season where he was only seeing, 4 to 6 touches a game and everybody was pulling their hair out. He has worked himself into this offense with these last 2 weeks, and he will continue to see the ball. He's too dynamic for them not to, especially with what he's shown. So if you don't like what you're getting, if you counter and they decline it, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Like Gibbs will get you there as an RB2 with RB1 upside.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good. Dylan saying, what up, boys? Got a big trade deal, 2-family league. It's not my team, but a family member's who's trying to collude a tad to make her boyfriend's team better to beat other family.
We love a good collusion in the family league.
It has to be fair, though. People have vetoed an original offer. Which side are you
good on the
taking?
league.
Full PPR. Swift, Kincaid, Laporta, Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson for Bijan, Gabe Davis, Kelsey, Geno, possibly Dell or Warren.
I want the Swift, Laporta, and Keenan Allen side.
Yeah.
And it's not that close.
I could make an argument for the Gabe Davis, Kelsey Geno side that would be there. Like I could make if you put me to it, I could make an argument for that one as to why it's not that bad of an offer, but it's not that lopsided.
Realistically, and there's a lot going on here, but realistically, not all that lopsided, right?
Walk me through how you don't feel like this is lopsided.
Okay, which Kelsey, part of it?
I tell you, Swift is better than Bijan. Take the name out of it and look at the numbers. Swift is running back 5. It's far better than Bijan by himself. So
right, there's going to be some of that you're going to have to put some of the name value into it though to do it right. And but I think for us, where we take all the names out of it, right, we look at more of the statistical thing and all of that. Yes, it's very lopsided on that standpoint. If we're going to make it where we can make an argument for the other side, we've got to put some of the name value on that.
Okay. You make the argument for Bijan, Gabe Davis, and Kelsey. I'm interested to hear this one. Talk me into it.
Okay. So I'm assuming that you also think that the Keenan Allen, Gabe Davis side's way out of proportion there as well. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah.
Keenan Allen better. So here
is wide receiver.
Real quick.
Yeah, he's wide receiver 7 on the year. Hell yes, it's lopsided.
He's wide receiver 31 through the last from weeks 5 to 8.
Kincaid Laporta, you're only getting one player. That's one player, right? One roster spot, right?
What?
Kincaid and Laporta, right? Like you're getting 2 guys that for tight end
for one starting spot, right. Assuming.
What's the points per game between Laporta and Kelsey?
They're not that far off.
But you're only getting one spot. But you're only getting right.
Put him in the flex.
It's 2 for 1.
Like I've got to do a lot of.
How many times have you put a tight end in the flex?
But
what's that?
How many times have you put a tight end in the flex?
In dynasty leagues, a lot, right? In our home league scoring, no, I don't do that. But in dynasty leagues, I've done it a lot, right? You have injuries, you have bye weeks. I've had to do it. Taysom Hill, I've put in Taysom Hill in my super flex before just to prove a point.
So have I.
Like, it is what it is, right? Like
put him in my tight end spot when he was getting starts at quarterback.
Catching Gabe on a hot week, right? You're not counting the down week. You're catching him off a hot week.
You asked me to. Well, it was one of those that we're trying to make an argument for it, right? Like if you're taking trends into it, Gabe Davis, wide receiver 25, weeks 5 through 8, Keenan Allen 31, right? Like wash-ish over that time period there, right? The name value, Bijan better than the name value of Swift. However, statistically, flip that. Alec made the point with the Kincaid and Laporta, where you can only really start one of them, and name value of Kelsey definitely kind of overrides that one there. I have to do lots of mental gymnastics to try and get there, and I'm feeling like I'm not even coming close. And then the Deontay for Geno, right? Quarterbacks will put up more points than a wide receiver that's just come back off of injury.
Yes, but quarterback 19.
Correct, right? Like
you can pick up something better than that on the waiver wire almost every single week.
So I tried playing devil's advocate, and I don't think we're getting anywhere close on this.
I don't think so.
I tried.
Alex, you want to try and take a stab at this?
Nah, God, no, I'm never going to get
Okay. The Swift, Laporta, Allen side is by far the better side. So however that lands, right, with not knowing who's getting what for how many cookies or whatever they're calling it in the home league, Dylan, the Swift, Laporta side is by far better.
So he says, me too, the sister's giving up. That up's a perfect. We have a bigger league with more money on the stakes. So
Sure.
The Bijan side is losing
Yeah.
that deal.
It is. The Bijan side is losing that deal, hands down.
Yes. So, yeah, if you couldn't get me to figure a way to mental gymnastics that thing into a point of view that made sense, I'd like to see somebody else try that and send it over to us. Like I want to see the argument. That'd be an interesting deal there. All right, Big Goo again. Love that name. Thanks, y'all. That was my quandary of Shaheed, Moore, Rice, Kelsey, Godwin, Gabe, Mims, Laporta, and London as pass catchers, but have Gibbs, McLaughlin, Swift, Josh Kelly at running back, so I don't know.
I think you're wrong with Swift and Gibbs, man. I think you'll
Yeah.
like that. You have a tough week with Swift still hitting a bye in week 10. So that'll be tough. But
and Gibbs is on bye this week.
Yeah, you got a couple quick tough ones that you got to get around. But you can drop Mims, right? Like Marvin Mims isn't going to do anything for you, so you can see if there's any help there on the waiver wire. Drop Mims, pick up DeMarcado, right, for this week if he's still out there. Roshan Johnson. I mean, some of these running backs who float around the waiver wire on and off here a little bit is kind of where I do to help you out with the bye week stuff. But because, yeah, Gibbs, McLaughlin, both out. Kelly's got a tough matchup at the Jets. Swift's got a challenging matchup against Dallas. Like, it's going to be tough for your running back room this week.
Right. Matt, would you trade Amon-Ra for Saquon and Rejaff if he has Chase, Devonta, and Ayuk, have Ramondre as the RB1?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
you've got to.
Yep. In this situation, absolutely.
Yeah, because you can get by with Chase and Ayuk who've done that, and Devonta will give you some spike week there as a flex if you need it. Alrighty. Dylan saying redraft full PPR, give up Diggs, Ford, Goddard to get ETN, Hawkinson, and Devonta Smith.
Yes.
Smash, yes. Yeah, I don't need to see much of the rest of the roster. Yes, you're getting a much better deal.
Diggs has been good, right? But I
really
mean,
good, yeah.
That with what ETN and Hawkinson have been doing, the consistency of Hawkinson over Goddard, even with a new quarterback, I understand, but tight ends, new quarterback's best friend, right? Hawkinson's volume should not decline.
Right, and with that
CMC for Roshan.
Yeah, you get to roll out CMC and ETN every week. Hawkinson at your tight end, and then you get to play the matchups and which guy is looking the better between Ayuk. We had a Waddle sighting just show up, and Smith. So yeah, I would do it.
Yeah, I think you do it.
Big Goose saying he appreciates it.
Yeah, anytime, brother.
All righty. Any other thoughts on anything else along the questions, anything like that we want to hit up here?
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Oh, Siri, I'm sorry. No, right, we're coming down on it, right? NFL trade deadline was today. Fantasy trade deadlines, depending on the league you're in, are anywhere between now and week 13 or 14. Depending on how your league's set up, you are absolutely moving and shaking, trying to adjust your lineup where you might have potential holes, strengthen your lineup for playoff runs. Like, this is absolutely the time of year where you need to be looking at what your players have to go up against weeks 13 through 17, right? For that last push into the playoffs and through the playoffs. So it's time to make some moves and solidify what you assume will be playoff rosters, and hopefully by then we get some of this star power back off of IR, right? You get Jefferson back. Hopefully they're able to make it work with whatever quarterback they're going to run there in Minnesota. A-Chain coming back off of IR should help. James Conner coming back off of IR, that should help to some extent. So there's hopefully help coming back to you. Kyron Williams, I don't want to leave him out, right? So there's help coming, but you got to get there, and you got to get through the next 2-3 weeks before you start seeing these guys get back in your lineup.
Absolutely. Alex, any final thoughts?
It is starting to get to the time where you may need to think about next year. That's all I'll put out there.
Okay. Well, we'll do everything we can to try and get you on that playoff push there, but
sometimes things just don't break your way, and you might need to look ahead to the future. Don't let one bad season turn into 2 bad seasons.
all right, I like it. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. Appreciate, you know what? Terry had a great response for you there, Alex. What?
He's talking about keeper in dynasty leagues, not redraft leagues.
Yeah, no,
Right.
just look, I gave up in the home league. It's time to look ahead to the future. I've made my donation. We'll look ahead to try and win some cash and trophies next year, because it ain't happening this year.
All righty. Well, that's going to do it for us. He's Kevin. He's Alex. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.